Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and today we are on our 23rd in-depth character review where we are looking at Commander Cody. We are continuing our Clone Faction special where last time we did a review of Captain Rex and we also did a video with the clones taking on the AAT raid and getting a lot of damage. The gameplay you are seeing today is a combination of gameplay I captured while visiting Electronic Arts as well as some of the gameplay coming from McMole2, who provided gameplay for that AAT special video as we saw before. So if you guys would like, check the link down below in the description to get to McMole2's channel where he has a lot of clone videos if you want to learn more about them. But anyways, let's go ahead, pull up the Hall of Fame and see where we were last time. In our last review, we looked at Captain Rex and we placed him as a Grand Master. With all the clones becoming free to play, many people want to know, is Commander Cody worth getting and should you use him to lead your clones? Well, all of those questions will be answered in this video. But before we get on to that, we have to learn more about Commander Cody and his purpose in the Star Wars universe. And like Captain Rex and all the other clones, Commander Cody was cloned from the DNA of Jango Fett on the planet of Kamino. He served as a clone marshal commander in the Republic Army during the Clone Wars and was under the command of General Kenobi. Cody was in charge of leading the 212th Attack Battalion, which were involved in many battles across the galaxy, such as the Battle of Christophsis, Geonosis, and Tipoca City. During the Battle of Utapau, when it looked like the war had been tipped in favor of the Republic for good upon the death of General Grievous, Palpatine activated the inhibitor chip planted in Cody and all the other clones and commanded him to execute Order 66 and eliminate General Kenobi. But in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, we continue to see Cody carry out his ability to lead his clones into battle and do as much damage as possible, while at the same time rallying his troops to fight as one against the challenge ahead. So let's go ahead and change gears a little bit and talk about Commander Cody in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And the first thing we want to know is, how do we unlock this character? Well, he used to be a Chromium Pack exclusive character for a long time, which meant you had to spend about $200 at least to get him to 7 stars. Nowadays, as of November 2016, you can get him in the fleet shipments as well as the guild store. You can also still get him in the Chromium packs, but the former two methods that I mentioned are the free-to-play method to do it and probably the best way to go about and do it, and that's what I'm doing currently. But it's time to talk about the meat and butter of characters, and that is the stats of a character before mods, abilities, and leader stuff are considered in the equation. And we first have to look at the pros. What is he exceeding in? And he's actually exceeding in 3 big things, actually. First off, when we look at maximum damage, we find that he is number 30. The average is 5,453, and Commander Cody is sitting at a very nice 6,125, putting him in the top 30% in maximum damage dealers in the game. So far, so good. Let's get on to the next close relative, and that is maximum basic damage. So he's doing pretty good in damage, and in this category, he is number 10. The average is 4,251, and Cody is at 5,473. So this puts him in the top 10% in maximum basic damage dealing attack. So very good. And lastly, in the pros category, we have number 5 for AoE. So it's a bit complicated, we'll talk about it soon, but the average is 2,992, and when looking at his kit, which we will do soon, his AoE does 3,981 to everyone except the targeted enemy. So if you want to know, the targeted enemy gets 6,125 damage, and everyone else takes 35% less damage, but more on this later. Let's get on to the averages, and what the heck, just like Captain Rex, he is not average at any of the major stats in the game, so now we gotta go straight into the stuff that Chewbacca wants to cry about. It's okay, buddy, hold on, Chewbacca, I'm with you here. We got a lot of things to go through, so let's get to it. Health, very bad in this category. He is number 80 in health. The average is 19,166, and Commander Cody is at 15,328, which puts him way below the average and the median, which also means he's in the bottom 20% in health in the game. Now, protection, hold on to your seats, don't want to scare you here, but he is number 99 in protection. The average is 19,617, and Cody is just way below the average and the median at 12,000 30, so very bad. And this puts him in the bottom 5% in the game, so very, very bad in this category. Getting onto more of these defensive things, let's look at armor, where he is number 75 in armor. The average is 227, and Cody is at 198. So again, not too good here, putting him in the bottom 25%. Getting onto a very important thing, speed. He is not too fast in this game. He is number 78 in speed, and we know that the average is 127, and Commander Cody is at 115. And of course, the numbers do not consider his basic ability, but we will be there quite shortly and talk more about that. Let's take a look at his potency now, and he is not doing too hot here. He is number 78 in potency, with the average being 30%, and Commander Cody being at 21%, so putting him roughly in the bottom 25%. And although he stuns on a critical hit, sometimes his stun can get resisted if his potency is not high enough, very like Dengar. So you definitely need some good potency, and 21% is just barely cutting it for Arena, so we definitely want to bump that up higher. And the last thing I want to bring to your attention is armor penetration. Number 65 in this category, actually, with the average being 53, and Cody is at 39. So not as bad as everything else. This puts him in the bottom 50% in the game. So how about we just take all those numbers and look at his kit and see if we can start connecting some dots. And the first ability that he has is called Alpha Strike. This is his basic attack that will deal damage to a single enemy, and he gains 20% turn meter. And then he gains an additional 20% turn meter if that enemy has more than 50% health. But wait, there's one more clause, and an additional 20% turn meter if that enemy has less than 50% turn meter. So in short, Commander Cody can gain up to 60% turn meter just on his basic attack, so this does address his low speed, so that's good to know so far. Now it's time to talk about his oddball AoE attack, which is called the ATTE Mass Driver Cannon. And this deals special damage to a target enemy and 35 less damage to all other enemies. If this attack scores at least 2 critical hits, then you stun the primary targeted enemy for 1 turn. So it's an interesting AoE that does more damage to the enemy you're targeting than less for the rest of everyone on the field. Sort of like Ayla Sakura and Dengar, where he relies heavily on critical attacks to apply stuns and debuffs, but even with that, you will still need some decent potency, because even if you score a critical hit, there is a chance that you can get resisted. I've seen it, and it is super irritating. Getting onto probably one of the coolest abilities in the game, the 212th attack. Call all clone allies and 1 random ally to assist. These assists also deal 40% less damage, but each time an assist scores a critical hit, you reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1. So this is sort of a mini General Kenobi ability, and this demonstrates even further how Cody relies heavily on critical damage based teams. And lastly, his Zeta Leader ability, which we have gameplay in the video of, is called Ghost Company Commander. Clone allies gain 30% critical chance, and all other allies gain half that amount. Cody gains 60% defense for each living clone ally, and other clone allies gain half that amount. And with the Zeta upgrade, clone allies gain 5% of their max protection whenever they use a basic ability. So as a leader, he will ensure that critical damage attacks take place more often, allowing him to make the most out of his kit. The Zeta ability adds 5% protection regeneration on their basic ability, but it's not the most useful in all events like Arena, since Rex is arguably better. But this leader ability is fantastic for marathon type events like the AAT raid. The last thing we have to talk about before my subjective opinion is the gear, and we start off with the raid gear. The average amount of raid gear is 3, everyone needs it at some point, and Commander Cody is definitely above this, and not in a good way, and needs 5 pieces, with the first piece being needed at gear 8 and a lot being needed at gear 9 to get to gear 10. In case you are planning on gearing him up as fast as possible, this is what you are going to need. He will need 3 Mark V fusion furnaces, 1 Mark 7 Nubian scanner, and 1 Mark 6 Nubian design tech. So a nice grocery list right there. And the story keeps on going, and it's not a good story for gold. The average amount of gold gear needed is 200 pieces, and Cody, oh boy, he needs 330 pieces. But But the good news is he does not need any of it until he is at gear 11, so very good. And purple gear is not a good story as well. We know that the average amount of purple gear needed is 1,110, and Cody is way above this at 1,430 pieces, putting him as the 7th highest requirement for purple gear in this game. The most prominent pieces you will need are by far the Mark 6 hypo syringes, which you will need 350 pieces of those, and 80 Mark 3 CNR hollow projectors, and lastly, the thing I really hate farming, stun cuffs, which he will need 100 pieces of those. And lastly, blue, green, white gear, nothing too crazy, but he is average for blue and below average for green and white. But now it is time to get to my subjective part of the review, where we look at Yoda's checklist, his mortal enemies, best friends, and we rank him in the Hall of Fame. And we start off with my thoughts. If you cannot get General Kenobi but still want a taste of the action and fun, you get Cody. His special attack to call in all his clone allies and a random ally is actually pretty deadly and insanely good for the AAT raid, as you may have saw from my previous video. If you mod your characters right, you can technically always reduce the cooldown so low he can use that attack back to back. Although on paper he is a very slow character, once he starts taking his first attack, things start to roll, kind of like a roller coaster. A lot of time and momentum to get up, but once you finally get over that top ridge, things start to get fun. His basic offers many opportunities to gain a lot of turn meter, allowing him many opportunities to use the 212th attack as often as possible. His AoE is not the most deadly in terms of damage when comparing it to other AoE characters like Darth Maul, IG-88, Lando, but the opportunity to choose an enemy of your choice and stun them is quite powerful. Getting this attack out as early as possible would be great, but being slow at the very beginning means there are a lot of possibilities for the enemy to stun you, to ability block you, to apply speed down, and you can never get your attacks going. And although he got a Zeta upgrade to his leader ability, it is not the best one overall. Yes, it works great in the AAT raid, but for arena and many other aspects, Captain Rex is by far your better option, since the current meta is all about moving fast with a lot of critical damage attacks, and Captain Rex has a better catch-all leader ability. The protection, regeneration bonus, and the defense is not all that special, and if your main concern is regenerating a lot of health and a lot of protection, your Zeta upgrade is much better off being placed in someone like Barriss Offee. And the last biggest concern of mine is that if he is not in a clone army and if you're not getting a lot of critical attacks, he is not all that helpful and he will start being dead weight and won't contribute to your side of the team. But if you are planning on using Commander Cody, you need to know who his mortal enemies are, and I've already sort of alluded to who they are. His main enemies are those that prevent critical damage attacks, because without those, he is not stunning, he is not reducing cooldowns for the 212th attack. So great counters to Commander Cody would be a General Grievous leading the battle, since he will reduce the critical chance, Shore Trooper and General Kenobi for granting critical hit immunity. Characters like Darth Vader as well as Fives to apply speed down are also great counters, because if you can slow down that roller coaster before it goes over the ridge, he will never finally get his turn to participate in the battle. And lastly, people who can apply ability block like Poggle the Lesser, Old Ben, Darth Vader are also big concerns, because if he is not using his special attacks, he is not helping out whatsoever. But what are his best friends? If you are going to use him, you want to make sure he's in a squad that really fits him. And pretty much all the clones are his best friends. He wants to call in all the clones for his 212th attack, and he wants to give them all those bonuses from his leader ability. But you also could use Anakin Skywalker and General Kenobi, since they are both fantastic leaders for clones, and they have various clone bonuses. Taunting tanks are also very good, because Commander Cody has low health. And Stormtrooper Han might actually be a very good friend, because he absorbs the oncoming damage and he gives out extra turn meter, so that could really help Commander Cody to get that first big attack going. But unlike Captain Rex, Commander Cody just isn't that flexible and really just needs to be in a clone squad, so you won't be seeing him in a lot of lineups like Captain Rex is. Now it's time to take a look at the mods, and really there's only one efficient way to mod Commander Cody. Either give him all critical chance mods, or give him a combination of critical chance and damage mod sets, since his kit really relies on critical attack so much. Health won't be the best since his health is very low. When you multiply a small number, you don't really end up with a big number. So health mods are okay, but I highly recommend you promote yourself to critical mods at some point. But you might also want to run offense mods to bump up his already pretty high attack. When looking at primary and secondary mods, you really just want mods that get that metaphorical roller coaster moving as soon as possible, and that is by bumping up his speed. Like many characters in this game, there is really not a point where you have too much speed. You always want as much speed as possible, and Commander Cody definitely is one of those characters. But critical chance and critical damage mods would also be a very wise idea to make sure he's getting out as many critical damage attacks as possible, and protection and health mods are also great primary and secondary mods to go with. But it is now that time to look at Yoda's do or do not checklist, where we quickly summarize many of the events in the game and see if he is viable, and we start off with Arena. Definitely a do. He works better working under a Rex lead and with a bunch of clones, but he can be okay as a leader. Clones are making a strong comeback in Arena, so Commander Cody is great here. Galactic War is just an extension of Arena, so definitely a do. Light side battles, just like the previous two, definitely do. Cantina battles, just like the previous three things I mentioned, definitely do. His major attacks can really come into play. Mod challenges, just like Rex, there aren't any clone-specific mod challenges, so we will say do not, but if you want, you could use the catch-all mod challenges for health, and he will be okay. But we just look at faction-specific things here. Ships, do not. He does not have a ship as of now, but that could definitely change, and he could be someone like Captain Rex. Lastly, the two raids. I say this very lightly for the Rancor raid, but we can say do. Definitely not necessary or the go-to guy for the raid, but he can get out a few good attacks and he could help you be a good second or third string team member. The AAT rate is going to be a 125,000,000% do. If you saw my previous video, he is a great leader for the heroic AAT raids, particularly phase 2, so definitely get him. He will be great for that as well. Alright though, it is time to pull up the Hall of Fame and see where we are going to place Commander Cody. Commander Cody is actually a difficult character to rank because he is great when with his clones, but outside of his clones, he is not doing all that much. But let's get right into the ranking. From Grandmaster to Youngling, we are placing Commander Cody as a Knight. As many of you know, when I rank characters, I try to look at just the character themselves as they stand alone. Commander Cody is very like Darth Vader and Ahsoka Tano, where he needs the help from other people to be very good. So if you put Commander Cody inside of a clone team, he is easily a master, but by himself, he is a knight. So on that bombshell, I hoped you enjoyed this 23rd in-depth character review, and we are going to continue on our clone special, so please in the comments down below, let me know who you want to see next, and if you want some more clone videos, check out the link down below in the description to McMole2's channel, where he has a lot of clone gameplay already. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook because I always forget to mention that, and we will talk again soon. Peace out.